followed by a day of fasting and prayer. The day to butcher the rooster had finally come. "It costs 3 mil to butcher the thing," he said. At the time, the Mukhtar, a Mukhtar was a community or village leader in Ottoman times, of the neighborhood was also the butcher. Gershon Feibel was his name. In those days his signature was needed for everything, including marriages and divorces. However, a series of mishaps caused the rooster to be declared taref, ritually impure and thus inedible, one involving a cat walking away with it amid preparations in the kitchen. But Shalom's mother did not let the matter faze her, exclaiming, "I paid for this rooster and we are going to eat it." The whole neighborhood learned of the commotion and offered her parts of their own roosters, but she would not have them. They were going to retrieve the rooster and cook it. I do not remember how the story ended, but I noted that Shalom Esra used the Arabic word tfadal, please, go ahead, and that the currency, mil, seemed to place the story during the time of British rule, 1920 to 1948, reasonably coinciding with Shalom's childhood. The storytellers who took to the stage after Shalom peppered their tales with linguistic expressions and puns in Turkish, Yiddish, Arabic, and Ladino, Judeo-Spanish. Their references to Hasafa ha-Yerushalamit, the Jerusalem language, evoked an ambiance of daily communal interactions in late Ottoman and British Mandate-era Jerusalem. While some of the stories were inherited from an older generation's oral traditions, this did not preclude the performers from communicating a sense of nostalgia for a bygone world, even if they did not experience it directly. I was struck by the contrast between this modest yet discursively rich event and the ostentatious atmosphere with its blaring music and Israeli flags. The festival's concurrence with the commemorization of the 1967 war imbued it with a politicized air. At a time when the first Orthodox Jewish mayor presided over a right-wing municipal government, and the separation barrier neared completion in Jerusalem, these storytellers were recalling a smaller, more intimate city that appeared at odds with the nationalistic environment surrounding us. Some of these raconteurs, I learned, were members of a local storyteller circle called the Jerusalem Parliament. In Israeli parlance, a parliament refers to an informal gathering of old-timers, vatikim, who pass the time telling stories. During my initial fieldwork in 2007 to 2008, several forums like this were operating in the city and beyond, along with guided tours, radio programs, and exhibitions dedicated to Jerusalem's culture and history. They formed part of a wider generational embrace of nostalgia in a city whose identity is in perpetual struggle and is subject to scrutiny both locally and abroad. Together, these older residents created community by evoking an earlier era characterized by modest means, neighborliness, and religiosity tempered by humor, themes that I would recognize again and again in tales about Jerusalem. A year later in June, I signed up for a walking tour of the Arab neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem. Perched on a hillside north of the Old City, this traditionally aristocratic neighborhood extends east of Road No. 1, the highway dividing east from West Jerusalem, toward the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus. Between Sheikh Jarrah and the Old City to the south is a 1.3-kilometer stretch of Palestinian residential neighborhoods that lead toward Salah ad-Din Street, a busy artery of shops, hotels, and restaurants that make up the center of East Jerusalem. Sheikh Jarrah watches over them, weary and detached, like an impoverished grandfather, a shadow of its former self. Over a century old, the neighborhood displays a bewildering mix of opulent villas, narrow sidewalks, dust and honking cars, and a midday rush of school children. Amid the neglected streetscape, where trees and benches for repose are scarce and trash collection irregular, the visitor may chance upon the well-kept interiors of the American Colony Hotel, a small string of restaurants along Shimon Hatzadik Road.